Mario has some of the best games of all time, with just about every one of his games being a critically acclaimed system seller. And it's easy to see why, as he's revolutionized 3D platforming, gone to space, and even traveled the world in a hat-shaped ship. But despite the many accolades and infinite creativity these games have, no game is perfect, even Mario 3D World. But don't tell Thomas I said that. That's right, every game here has things that can be fixed, no matter how big or small. So that's why in this video, I want to make one change to every 3D Mario. But let's start with some ground rules. Each game here has been criticized ever since it came out, so I'll try to avoid the cliche criticisms that have been brought up before. But man, sometimes things are cliche for a reason. I'm talking to you, Mario 64's camera. So if I feel like the most obvious fix has been said to death, it'll just be an honorable mention with something a bit different being the main fix to spice things up. So hey guys, it's PJ from the Switch Stop, and let's get right into it. Starting off with the game that made the 3D platform genre as we know it, Super Mario 64. It's honestly a miracle this game is as good as it is. Mario 64 not only kickstarted an entire gameplay style, but basically nailed it on its first try with some of the best 3D platforming gameplay we've ever seen. And it wasn't just great gameplay, Mario 64 introduced one of the best hub worlds ever, 15 unique levels to explore, and yet has the worst camera in video game history. Yeah, the god-awful camera is probably the most infamous problem Mario 64 has. It's not even one of those highly exaggerated issues people blow out of proportion either. If you replay Mario 64 start to finish, you will get shafted by the camera controls multiple times. When we 100%ed this game for the star ranking, there were dozens of deaths solely from the camera. So yeah, it's obvious this would be the biggest fix for the game. With Mario 64 being the first 3D platformer, Nintendo thought players needed an in-universe explanation for how the camera works, so their explanation was that Lakitu just follows you around, videoing you like a creep. But 30 years later, gamers know what a camera is. So Lakitu and his aversion to holding the camera still while you do a difficult platforming section is solely obsolete now. But as I said at the start, fixing 64's camera is about the most obvious fix out of all of these games and has been said to death. So I'm gonna give Mario 64 a new fix that isn't talked about nearly as much, and that is changing the boot out system. Whenever you get a star, the game kicks you out to the start. And at first, it makes sense. After the first level throws you out of the painting, subtly telling you to explore other parts of the castle. But then after every subsequent star, it still kicks you out, which is not only a huge time waster in having to load everything back in, but for some levels like Tall Mountain, you have to reclimb the mountain for 3 separate identical stars that just amount to climb the mountain. Sure, if it didn't kick you out, then it would make the repetitiveness super evident, but we can only fix so much. And as is, Mario 64 wastes a whole lot of your time with the boot out system. And it's not like there were technical limitations as to why it kicks you out. I've heard some people argue for the boot out system by saying the levels change depending on the mission, but not only do some levels dynamically change while you're inside them, but you can also pick up the 100 coin stars and keep going to collect a regular mission star. So it's totally doable. It's clear to me they were just padding out this game. So if there was one thing to fix about Mario 64, it would be that. Mario Sunshine is infamous for having some janky levels and frustrating mechanics, but above all else, the complaint I hear about most about this game is by far the blue coins. If you didn't know, blue coins in Sunshine are scattered throughout every single level. If you get 10 of them, you can get a shine. The only issue is there's zero guide to find these. However, some blue coins are in distinct missions inside each level, so if you're looking to 100% this game, good freaking luck, because they can be placed anywhere inside any mission. But although blue coins are pretty scuffed, you don't technically need any to beat the game. So although it's definitely a collectible that could have been made fun and actually necessary with a few tweaks, I don't actually think blue coins are Sunshine's biggest problem. In fact, I honestly think the entire blue coin issue is overblown for the most part. They aren't mandatory and are just fun little collectibles you can pick up if you feel up to the task. However, on the other hand, the big thing I would fix about Sunshine is what is actually required to beat the game. Unlike in Mario 64, you don't just need a set amount of shines to beat the game, rather you have to beat the 7th mission in every level to get to the final boss fight. That means that if you think one of the first 7 levels is unfun and or actively trying to make you depressed, you just have to buckle up and get it done, or else you can't beat the game. So not only does it take away from the freedom of choice from 64, but it makes any levels after the 7th mission just about useless. And compared to 64, a lot of Sunshine's levels are just frustrating. This game in particular could have used the 64 style of completion, letting you pick and choose what levels to complete complete, but as is, any level after the 7th mission doesn't go towards beating the game. So although the blue coins can really suck if you're looking to 100%, you technically only need one extra shine besides the 7th shine in each of the main levels. And I guarantee if you have a pair of eyes, you'll end up collecting 10 blue coins throughout your run of the game. The barrier on beating Sunshine is almost certainly because of the crunch development the game infamously went through, but with some very simple changes of allowing any mission playable for each level, you could bypass a whole lot of frustrating levels, and it would make the god-awful bonus levels actually contribute to beating the game. Because as is, you only need one bonus star, so if you play the pachinko machine level, you're doing it just to feel pain. Super Mario Galaxy is arguably one of the greatest games ever made and is ranked high up there on many game rating websites. And to be honest, what's there not to love about this game? The setting is out of this world, it's all framed like an intense cinematic movie, and it has one of the best soundtracks in all of gaming, period. But one of the few complaints I do hear about this game though is that although the gravity mechanic is cool, allowing you to run along planetoid surfaces, due to its implementation, it requires the game to be a bit more basic with its moves, simplifying Mario's overall moveset. Case in point, the long jump is straight up neutered compared to Mario 64, and you won't find much use for any fancy movement combos like the other games either. Galaxy consists mostly of jumping from planet to planet or doing some basic wall jumps and spins. But although the slower gameplay can be excused for everything else amazing that took its place, the one thing that can't be excused is how disappointing the power-ups turned out to be. The point of power-ups are, if you could possibly guess, to power up your moveset. And the 2D Mario games refine these to a T. Fire Flower gives you a projectile, Tanuki Suit lets you glide. But translated to 3D, both 64 and Galaxy's power-ups feel more like power changes rather than power-ups. Seriously, are you gonna tell me the Spring Mushroom is enhancing Mario's moveset, or is it only here to be on the back of the box? The Spring Mushroom lets you bounce super high, but is horrendous to control. The Bee Mushroom lets you flutter in the air for a bit, but is so painfully slow and it doesn't even let you walk normally through the honey. And the Boo Mushroom I honestly forgot about until looking up what the power-ups for this game were. None of these are particularly fun, and slow down the gameplay even more than it already was. But none of these even compare to Galaxy's most offensive power-up, and that is the Red Star. This power-up commits the heinous crime of being the most fun power-up in the game, yet not being playable in a freaking level. That's right, the Red Star lets you fly around the Comet Observatory, and besides one little purple coin star, it's pretty much used for nothing. It's so fun to control and it actually feels like a power-up, but it feels like the Red Star's main intention was just to allow you to fly around the hub world. I really wish the Red Star power-up was actually implemented in, actual levels throughout the game, but I would also tweak or outright change the other power-ups to make them feel like actual moveset enhancements rather than gimmicks. Maybe the Spring Mushroom just lets you jump higher while retaining Mario's moveset, which allows for much higher vertical levels. The Bee Mushroom would still let you fly, but could be faster with longer space platforms. The big issues with these power-ups were that they were just alright on their own. I don't think I'd even call them outright bad, but their implementation was just kind of underwhelming, especially in a game as great as Galaxy. This next one's personal, and I hope not too controversial, but the level select screen in Galaxy 2 needs to go. I understand they were trying to pull parts from New Super Mario Bros. Wii and stick it into Galaxy 2, but attempting to streamline the level select, meaning getting rid of the amazing hub world from the first game, was just ridiculous to me. Sure, the Comet Observatory doesn't hold a candle to Peach's Castle or Isle Delfino, but what it lacks in crazy platforming or exploration, it makes up with in such strong theming and vibes. Not to mention Rosalina's story being a completely optional side experience to listen to as well. And that's another thing, Galaxy 2 completely ignores the events of the first game. And it makes sense going from Mario game to Mario game that things more or less reset. I mean, I'm sure everyone was glad to forget about Bowser's voice acting from Sunshine. Mario! But with Galaxy 2 being the first 3D Mario sequel, and with Galaxy taking a more cinematic and story-driven angle, you'd be safe to assume Galaxy 2 would continue the same story from the first game, but nope. Not only is everything from the first game ignored and forgotten, but they ditched that cinematic slower pace from the original, opting to throw you into the first level as fast as possible. And honestly, I don't even hate the idea of getting to the gameplay a bit quicker than the first Galaxy. Looking at Mario Odyssey, it had the perfect balance of story and gameplay. But with Galaxy, the gameplay, especially especially was slower, and you didn't have as much freedom in the gameplay department, and that was specifically to have you experience the cinematic and dramatic gameplay set pieces. But when you remove one of the main reasons the first game worked, it just leaves you with some good levels, but not a lot of substance and arguably the least fun 3D Mario gameplay. So although the level select and story are two separate things, I'm gonna cheat here a little bit and say I would fix the pivot away from what made the first game work. Although I will say they definitely improved the power-ups compared to the first game. Adding the Cloud and Rock Mushroom, Yoshi and his power-ups, and all of the other gameplay changes really did spice this one up, and I think even without a compelling story, Galaxy 2 definitely stands on its own as a great game, but it would be one of the best if we just fixed up the lack of continuity from the first game. The fix for the next game on this list will be a lot like this game, way too simple. 3D Land is way too damn easy, although the game picks up at the very end with some great bonus worlds that actually make you lock in. The entire base game borders on so easy it's almost just boring. Now, I know some people absolutely adore this game, but I personally think if I can make one change, it would definitely be to crank up the difficulty. Now, Mario games aren't really known for their intense difficulty, but 3D Land genuinely feels like you could play blindfolded sometimes. The movement is way too slow to be challenging, it's laughably effortless, and it just struggles to keep my attention sometimes. Now, this is by no means a bad game, let me just make that clear. It being the first original 3D Mario on a handheld is an amazing achievement on its own. However, I always felt 3D Land was sorely lacking some challenge throughout most of the game, and if I could fix one thing about this game, that would be it. For as criticized as Super Mario 3D World is, it was actually kind of hard to find a proper fix for this game. Sure, it could be argued that it's much more bland than the other 3D Marios, especially with its overall theme and having a distinct style. But for what it was going for, 3D World hits everything out of the park. It's the perfect couch co-op Mario game that expertly blends creative level design, the right amount of challenge, and all with it being super fun multiplayer or solo with characters that all have distinct characteristics. Well, except one. Luigi jumps higher, Peach floats, Toad is faster, and Mario is just a regular dude?
Hi, how are you?
I never understood why every character gets their own unique characteristic, while the guy in the box gets absolutely jacked to be distinct from the rest. Yeah, I know, Mario is the all-arounder, but why would I want to be Mario when I could be a speed demon like Toad, or get a spin move like Rosalina? And that's why my fix for 3D World is to give Mario his signature triple jump. He still retains his all-around playstyle, but would get his iconic jump that allows him to get a bit higher as Luigi, but only after timing the jumps and momentum right. I always thought it was weird that in every other 3D Mario game, Mario has his triple jump, except for the game that lets you play as different characters with unique moves. Super Mario Odyssey by far has the most amount of content in any Mario game period. It has 880 moves to collect, countless unlockables, hidden collectibles, and more content than you could possibly 100%. So what could possibly be fixable here? Well, exactly what I just said. 100%ing this game is abysmal, and it may even be worse than Sunshine. Now, I definitely don't think a game should be catered to the insane few to fully complete it, but in Odyssey's case, did they really have to make it as tedious as they did? Just for starters here, some of the moons here are truly diabolical in nature. Take for instance, hitting an agonizingly slow volleyball 100 times, and if you mess up, you have to start from the beginning. Or how about any of the hurting sheep moons? Or how about a rock you have to hit 50 times in Ruin Kingdom to get a single moon? And that's not even mentioning any of the dark and darker side moons after you beat the game, or the Toadette challenge moons that take forever to even just collect. Overall, Mario Odyssey has the most amount of content, but some of it is just straight up devious if you're trying to 100% it. But that's the thing, this game isn't intended to be 100% beaten, it's meant to just be completed. And looking at it through that lens does mostly fix this problem. You're meant to find a challenge, puzzle, or any sort of collectible no matter where you go in a level, all getting you one step closer to powering up the Odyssey and moving on to the next kingdom. So in that regard, Odyssey does a great job with the amount of content and packed nature of the moons. But even viewing it from that angle, there are definitely some fixes that could be made to make it a bit easier to 100%. The Toadette achievements could totally be easily fixed by allowing you to collect all the stars at once. Some of the filler moons could be tweaked to be less grindy, but overall, although Odyssey is a bit annoying to 100%, those bold enough to try it kinda already know what they're getting themselves into. But for such an amazing game as Odyssey, that's about the best fix I can come up with. Out of every game so far in this list, Bowser's Fury was the hardest one to think of a fix for. Sure, it's an overall shorter experience, so it won't have as many glittering flaws as Odyssey or 3D World, but man, Bowser's Fury is just one great experience. Not only does it bring something new in the form of the first open world 3D Mario sandbox, but it really nails the the formula with great levels and this absolute beast that tries to kill you every 5 minutes or so. But that right there is one of the few issues I have with this game. The idea of Fury Bowser is so novel and interesting at first. You enter Lake Lapcat and have absolutely no idea what's going on. It's dark and stormy, and as soon as you make your way over a wrecked ship, you see something massive move into the distance. That big dude is Fury Bowser, and he wants to destroy you. Early game, there's no fighting him, just surviving, and it really is intense at first. But after the first 5 or so times, it really does start to get annoying. The only way to get rid of Fury Bowser is to grab a shine. So later on in the game, to avoid the wasted time evading him, I would leave a shine or two out, and when Fury Bowser starts to come out, I would run over and grab it. So although it's not a huge problem or anything, I would fix how often Bowser comes out, and also would change up what exactly he does so it isn't the exact same carbon copy attacks throughout the entire game. Again, it's not really a big deal, but hey, our job is to nitpick Nintendo games, so you better believe that's what we're doing here. And with that, that's how I would fix every 3D Mario game. Do you agree with my picks? If not, how about you fix this video by leaving a comment below and telling us how you would fix each game. Make sure to like and subscribe as we're on our way to 250k, and this is PJ from the Switch Stop signing off. Peace.